Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome from Ann Arbor. So excited to have so many of you on the phone with us this afternoon. My name is Diana Economy, and I am the director of the full-time MBA admissions program. Really excited to be talking specifically about consulting, a path that so many of our students consider, that so many are successful with pursuing in terms of their recruiting paths, and for you to learn a little bit more today about who we are, what we do, and how we offer you experiences, career preparation, and other opportunities to differentiate yourself in this path. I am an MBA alum myself. In fact, I have experience at a few different consulting firms, including the Boston Consulting Group and A.T. Kearney, but I was on the HR, recruiting, and staffing side of those firms. I also, while I was here at Ross, led the Human Capital Club. So I know that there are some of you that are interested in human capital consulting that might be joining us today. I also served as one of our CDO, Career Development Office, peer career coaches for my peers to help to support them through their career search. And I'm joined today by one of my colleagues. Hello, Randy.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm an associate director in the Career Development Office, and I'm focused on those of you interested in consulting. I'm a double dipper from Michigan, so also came here for undergrad. Before Ross, I had a lot of consulting experience, over 20 years as a senior manager at Deloitte, as associate partner at Accenture, managing partner of a boutique firm, and I've been in private independent practice along the way. I also took a little detour and did a few startups at the height of the internet boom, and ended up here helping people enter consulting. And I think that's about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Randy. And I know for some of you, you might be on a Michigan Ross call for the first time. Some of you may have heard this, but I'm going to go through quickly some of the things that we think really differentiate Michigan Ross from other top MBA programs. To start off with, if you learn best by doing, this is the place to be. Where possible, we are going to try to put you in the driver's seat where you are going to be faced with the challenges that you would face as a business leader. And we're going to push you to think through those challenges, to build on the skills that we're giving you in the MBA experience, to potentially fail, right? And to learn from your mistakes. We think you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. I will tell you that hands-on learning is something that time and time again, our consulting alumni tell us. It was so valuable to have some opportunity to practice while I was in school, and it gave me more confidence in front of clients. So this is a huge opportunity. We'll share a little bit more about some of those experiences that you can have. When you take a look at business schools, 9 out of our 10 business specializations are ranked into the top 10. What does that mean? It means that U.S. News takes a look at the finance, marketing, operations, strategy departments, and more of top business schools. And 9 of our 10 business specializations, they rank in the top 10. The breadth of excellence here is exceptional. It is second only to Stanford. 100 of our graduate programs are ranked into the top 10. So that means if you go to public health, if you go to policy, if you go to law, School for Environment and Sustainability, these are all top-ranked graduate programs. And at the University of Michigan, you have an opportunity to take a few courses outside of the business school, should you choose, or we have over 20 dual degree options. And of course, as business becomes much more multidisciplinary, requiring a lot more cross-sector experiences, this is going to be really valuable to you in your professional career. And finally, top in alumni effectiveness, that is a ranking that demonstrates how much our alumni truly give back to this experience and really how likely they are to pick up the phone when you call. You'll hear more from our students about some of the experiences that they've had with alumni. Specifically about consulting, you're on this call because you want to know what the outcomes look like and can you get a great job coming to Michigan Ross. And of course, preview to that, the answer is yes, right? Lots of great opportunity, but we'll share more. We're going to talk about the career support and the ecosystem that's part of your success here at Ross. We'll talk about our multidisciplinary action project, our MAP, which is a big part of our experience, as well as the academic foundations that we offer to help you be successful in consulting. And of course, also some of the consulting club and student resources. And finally, we want to make sure that we get a chance to answer your questions. Many of you submitted questions in advance. We have those and we can draw from them. But throughout the presentation, at any point, if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the question box and we will get to them at the end. So to start off with, this is an overview of our consulting slide. Some of our top recruiters, about 75% of our students went to those recruiters that you see there on the right-hand side, and McKinsey's been the top destination for the past few years. Typically, about a third of our class goes into consulting. And one question that we get asked regularly is, am I going to be geographically limited in any way? And the answer is absolutely not, in particular with consulting across not only consulting, though many other fields here at Michigan Ross. You are going to have a choice to choose the office that you desire, and our students do just that. So people are truly all over the place, certainly the coast, Chicago, international destinations, and more. When we think about the consulting landscape, this kind of gives you an overview. There's different ways of thinking about the different paths that you may pursue within consulting. I will say the majority go towards strategy, probably secondarily operations, but there may be an IT as well. Digital consulting has become quite popular, but there may be several of you that are interested in healthcare, human capital, advisory, and more, and there are plenty of opportunities for that. This just gives you a broad sense. I should mention that although, for example, a company like Deloitte is over there on the human capital side, they certainly are recruiting across some of these platforms, not just for human capital. And Randy, I want to bring you in now to kind of share a little bit more about some of the ecosystem or the way that we think about engaging students across these different opportunities of support.
Yeah, great. So we have a very robust system in place to help students recruit for consulting. It starts with me and the CDO office. You know, as I mentioned, I've got over 20 years of consulting experience myself. I also when I was at Deloitte, you pick up lots of side jobs when you're a consultant, and I was in charge of advanced degree recruiting. So I did a lot of hiring myself as well. I pulled together a bunch of materials and help curate. There's a lot of books and materials out there on the market. I try to help curate those so that you don't have to waste your time trying to find the right stuff, that it fits with our overall system. And then I help guide the club, and I develop our fact group curriculum so that we try to have one integrated approach between the club and what the career development office is doing and what the firms are asking for and talking about. So it starts with my professional guidance. And for those of you who are familiar with Victor Chang out there, we even have developed our own videos that are similar to his look over my shoulder system, where you don't have to spend $1,000 or whatever he charges to look over his shoulder. You can look over ours. And then we have peer support. So I hire 28 peer coaches who all had consulting internships, and they work with you on weekly meetings one-on-one to help develop your recruiting path and make sure you're really ready for recruiting. Those are the FACT groups. That stands for Functional Accountability Career Team. But then they also take individual appointments and help you with mock cases and resume reviews and all of that sort of thing. And then on top of that, we're working very closely with the consulting club that does a great job of weekly education sessions, along with there are several other clubs that offer consulting opportunities, so you actually get to practice consulting. And then I'm going to jump over to career expertise. We've got very involved alumni. All the top firms target Ross as one of their key schools, and so they're here a lot. They do workshops. They get involved on a regular basis. Several firms even park somebody here for most of the fall to help you understand the work that they do and get to know the firm. And then finally, we've got an amazing alumni network that is very robust, both with Ross and Michigan, even more broadly, where we have people at almost every consulting firm that you could think of that are anxious to describe their experiences there and help you understand what the firm's about. And then on top of that, we've got great alumni perks for graduating from Ross, which includes things like lifetime education, free tuition for any of our executive education programs. So just basically 360-degree total immersion support that actually makes a lot of people recruiting for other functions jealous. here at Ross.
That is indeed true. And I'm going to layer in a little bit of admissions piece here because I know some of you are getting ready to prepare your application, or maybe you just recently submitted. But one of our questions on our application is a career goals question, specifically what you're looking to do in the short term. The reason we ask for the short term is because recruiting happens very quickly here. And in fact, we and the Career Development Office engage with you before you even set foot on campus. Over the course of the summer, you can think of it as a bit of a almost curriculum or a few things that you would do remotely to get you prepared to recruit. Randy and his peers meet with each of the students incoming. They call them career launch appointments, where you're going to have taken an assessment to help you align with maybe the career path that's going to make most sense for you. And then you'll be talking to professional career staff about what are some things you can be doing to prepare or to learn more about yourself and the path forward to be best positioned. Even in August, before classes start, we do something called Career Action Days. Think of this as a 2 to 3 day career boot camp to get you ready to be talking to recruiters and to get your pitch ready, to start with your resume and more. And specifically, you'll hear from a group of consultants that will tell you more about the day in the life of what to look for there. So that's great. Thanks, Randy. All right, great. And so the next slide, Randy, is about your peer coaches who, of course, come from incredible backgrounds. So you've kind of given an overview of this already. But these are people that you hire and you work with regularly. Is that right?
Right, yeah. So they report to our office. We supervise them. We help train them. Overall, across all of the disciplines, we hire over 80 MBA2s who all had internships in the areas that they're coaching about, and specifically there's 28 for consulting. They've had internships at great companies, and they just went through the process, so they're really familiar with the practices of each of those companies with which you might be interviewing.
And we have more peer coaches than any other school. So I know as you're looking at some of these schools and trying to understand the career differentiation between them, a lot of schools will have some similar elements to their processes, right? They're going to have people who have relationships with the recruiters and the companies, professional staff that help to train and guide. But to augment the professional staff with the professional guidance of the staff to the peers, who then are going to be a part of your process as well, that's an incredible kind of partnership, I think, that we have in there. And to shed some more light on that, I want you guys to meet some of our students. Hi, Rajat.
Hi, Diana. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Rajat Goel. I'm an MBA second year. I originally come from New Delhi, India, where I did my undergrad with Delhi University. Prior to Ross, I was working with Bain in their research division, and then hopped on to doing my own thing for 3 years, and then worked with Amazon Web Services as their startup ecosystem evangelist. I did my MAP in Microsoft. For those who don't know what MAP is, in the last 7 weeks for our first year, we work as a group of 4 to 6 people. We work with an organization to solve their real world problems. Just to note that these are not simulations. These are actual problems that the companies are dealing with in their organizations. We work with senior leadership, have regular check-ins, and we'll have more details about MAP in the presentation going forward. I did my MAP with Microsoft, which was an amazing experience. During my summer, I was with McKinsey & Company with the digital practice in Chicago. Within Ross, in my second year, most of my time, I am a fact group leader and peer coach, as Andy mentioned, which is amazing learning experience for me as well from the other students. In terms of clubs, I'm the director of deal sourcing for Wolverine Venture Fund, which is again an amazing opportunity where you have an actual student-led venture capital fund. You analyze startups. We have Professor Gordon who guides us in the right direction of how to evaluate these startups, and you actually get real-world experience of seeing which opportunities will make through in the future. Secondly, I'm also involved in Dean Strategy Council, which is again with the support of the administration. We started this last year. These are actual consulting projects that we do with the administration to help them solve these problems, which is super close to what a consulting work is like. And I think that helped me a lot before my summer internship as well.
Great. Hi, Erin.
Hi, my name's Erin. I'm from Sydney, Australia, also a second year here at Ross. Prior to Ross, I was working in account management and sales for a CPG company back in Sydney, and then spent a little bit of time in consumer services for a fintech startup. For my map, we're going to go into more detail later, but I was over in Israel working with a med tech startup, which is really exciting. And I spent my summer working with strategy and consulting in Chicago. I'm also a FAF group leader and involved with the board of the consulting club. But one thing I want to highlight on here is my involvement with Michigan Code Academy. I was really proud to be a co-founder of the club last year. And we've been met with nothing but encouragement to bring technical skills and data analytics to students to sort of augment their studies outside of the classroom. In particular, this is a really great thing leading up to MAP and internships to be able to get these kind of technical skills in bite-sized pieces. So you're not doing a whole semester, but you're able to arm yourselves with these kind of skills going into your internships and your further career.
Great. Hi, Ben.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I grew up a little bit closer than our first two students, so I actually grew up like a 5-minute walk from Ross's campus, and then I left for undergrad, went to a small liberal arts school in Maine called Colby College. Spent 7 years before Ross working in the education industry, so I was a math teacher and an administrator at a charter school outside of Boston, and then worked for an ed tech company that was opening schools in Africa and India. My MAP project was for a hospital in Ghana that was a very cool project, very good prep for consulting that I'd love to talk about a little bit later on. This summer I was at BCG. I'm going to be going back there after graduation. And Ross, I spend a lot of my time on the Social Venture Fund, which is another student-run investment fund that in addition to looking for returns on our investments is also very focused on the social impact side. So we're looking to probably invest $50,000 to $100,000 this year in social impact companies, and then also was a part of the community consulting club. I'm happy to answer questions about that later.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ashley Perkins. I'm a second year here at Ross. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and attended Dartmouth College for undergrad. Prior to my MBA, I am a TSA core member from 2011, but more recently I was the customer experience manager for Mercedes-Benz USA, where I focused on improving CX strategy for our luxury clients, which paired very well with my MAP project, which took place in Mexico with the company Grupo Ferrera. They are a dealer group, and we were tasked with creating a new dealership strategy for their Mexico-based operations. For the summertime, I was with Deloitte Consulting in their strategy group. I was in Chicago office and will be returning to Deloitte within their Atlanta office, so happy to talk about switching for your full time. And I am one of the co-presidents of the consulting club at Ross, helping to lead an amazing board in the instruction and guidance of our current MBA 1s and MBA 2s interested in careers in consulting. I also represent the Black Business Student Association, where I am the corporate relations chair, helping to manage the relationship between corporate partners and the club.
Excellent. Thanks, Ashley. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Diana. So I'm Nick Campbell. I'm also an MBA 2, like everyone here. Similar to Ben, I grew up very close to here. We went to rival high schools right in this area. I also went to a small liberal arts college. Mine was in Michigan. And then I spent 6 years before school in the financial services industry, the last stop being what amounted to be a junior portfolio manager out of Morgan Stanley's office in Chicago. My MAP was with Experian, which is one of the companies that runs credit checks. And we were tasked with helping to facilitate the global rollout strategy of some of their robotic process automation. And we were out of Costa Rica, which was very cool. I've got to spend some time down there. I spent the summer with PwC Consulting out of New York City. And some of the things I'm involved with here at Ross, I am also on the senior board of the consulting club. I handle the financial side of things. And then one of the cool things I got to do last year was work on an energy club consulting project. So this is outside of class, but we were in charge of trying to peel back the layers a little bit on the ways that renewable energy and non-renewable energy compete from a fixed and marginal cost basis in markets where there's open bidding for those kind of things. So very interesting, pertinent questions. Got to talk with some of the leading people in the industry and kind of aggregate and form an opinion on that to head back to our client there.
Great. So we've talked a little bit about some of the opportunities that you've had academically. The way that the core works at Michigan Ross is the first 3 quarters of your first year, you're going to be taking your core classes largely with your section, with an opportunity to waive out of courses for which you've got previous experience. The last 7 weeks of your first year, rather than being in the classroom, as we've talked about, you'll be on a consulting-like engagement called MAP. The way that MAP works is you're given about 100 projects to choose from. You rank 15, 90+% get within their top 5. So you have a decent amount of flexibility to choose projects that suit your professional path, interests, and the skills that you're interested in gaining. Our projects took place across every continent except for Antarctica, 85 different projects, 29 countries, and importantly, your MAP sponsor or the school, depending on the nature of the project, pays for your MAP experience. So I was in India for 5 weeks. I didn't pay for my flight. I didn't pay for my housing. I didn't pay for my food. This is a huge value add, especially for those of you that are looking for global experiences. MAP is a huge way in which people go global. From a consulting perspective, of course, it's a 7-week full-time consulting project in advance of your 10 to 12-week consulting internship. And it's a big reason why 90+% of our students are career switchers. They switch either function or industry, and MAP is an opportunity for you to sample perhaps a path that you could be interested in, a country that you might be interested in working in, or even a new function or industry to you. So we have all MBA 2s with us today, and so they are in the midst of being able to choose the courses that they want to take in their second year. Your second year is almost entirely electives with a few core classes that you have to take at some point during your MBA experience. Do 1 or 2 of you want to talk about a favorite course, whether it's on the board or not? These are just a few courses that were chosen by, between what the consulting firms value, our academic advisors, other alumni that have gone into consulting to say these are some valuable classes. But again, this is only a few. What classes are you guys taking that you really enjoy?
So one of my favorite classes is actually not up here, although some of them are on my list for later this year. I took a negotiation class. I think it's actually called Bargaining and Influence Skills. But speaking to what Diana mentioned earlier, where we learned by doing, every single class we had a different case where we were matched up with a classmate and had some of the same information, some different information, and different incentives, different time pressures, different positions of leverage. And so I was able to be in, I guess, over a dozen different negotiating situations to test out some of the tools that they were giving us in the lecture. So I found that I actually took that in my first quarter of business school because I was able to waive out of one of the core classes. So I found that to be an incredible introduction. Was a chance for me to meet some of my MBA 2 classmates at the time who are now graduated. And so that was one of my favorites.
This is Ashley Perkins again. I took MO611, which is affectionately called the CEO class. Part of the reason why it's called that is because a CEO or a senior executive from a well-known company comes into the classroom every single week, whereas as a student body, we pretend to be members of the executive team, members of the media, members of government, and so on and so forth, and we replicate a crisis that the company had gone through at any point in time. And so it really helps prepare you, not just in problem solving, but communication skills and how to effectively handle a crisis, which can and will probably happen in your consulting experiences, and how well to effectively communicate what the next steps are and how to resolve those situations. So it's been an amazing class so far, and highly recommend it.
Great. So a lot of opportunities. One thing we should mention is we have a data and business analytics concentration that's been quite popular amongst our students to further enhance their skills. This would be a set of courses that you would take that would lead to, again, a concentration focused on data and business analytics. Typically, applied business analytics is the courses that students end up gravitating towards. The next thing I want to talk about is we're going to talk to Ashley about what the consulting club offers, some of the opportunities and experiences.
Yes, so in terms of what's on the slide currently, three major things happen with the consulting club at Ross. We offer, in our goal to help you understand what consulting is and how to secure a consulting offer, we do this through education sessions, which take place every Sunday for an hour for pretty much your entire fall semester of school. Then we have mentoring programs, mostly led by the MBA2s, where we're offering to do resume reviews, casing, mock interviews, mock behaviorals. And then we have 2 consulting forums. We have one for MBA2s happening at the very start of their MBA2 year, and then we have an MBA1 forum that happens in the middle of the fall semester, where many firms come offering coffee chats, offering opportunities to mock case and engage fully with our student body. Why Ross for consulting? Ultimately, the consulting club is a student-led organization, which means you are working with students who have not only gone through this process, hopefully successfully, but have so much to offer in terms of their time and their efforts and their resources and connections to help you secure that consulting offer that you're coming to Ross for. And then in terms of why deciding to lead the consulting club, because it's such a student-driven organization and because consulting at Ross is student-driven with immense support from the career office and the peer coaches, there's a concept here of paying it forward and making sure we give back to those coming after us. And so these are some of the reasons why a lot of us are heavily involved on the consulting club board and why the consulting club at Ross has such a successful outcome for our members.
Yeah, I think one of the themes you'll hear is so much structure in place to be able to help and to support you, as well as great partnership between students, the career development office, and then of course between Ross and the recruiters themselves. Ashley, you want to talk a little bit about some of the preparation and what that looks like?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we do have education sessions that take place pretty much every Sunday for the entire fall semester for your MBA 1 year. Examples of some of the topics, we walk through even just how to get through a circle of death at a networking event. I mean, we literally practice and we replicate that for you all, and you guys are engaged in that on your Sunday sessions, all the way to, how to write a cover letter, a strong cover letter, and how to, talk through your experiences prior to Ross and why consulting. So there are many different elements here, but I want to stress the fact that this would not be, we would not have such in-depth education sessions without our full alignment with the career office and with the fact group and peer coaches. And so it's very important for all of these resources to not just be aligned, but to work together in order to ensure a successful outcome. And so with Randy, with the peer coaches, in fact, on the consulting club board, we have someone dedicated to peer coaches to work as a liaison between the club and the career office and the fact group in order to make sure that we're not providing redundant information and that we're all moving in the same direction. So that's just a sample of what some of the sessions look like.
Great. And Ben, you're one of the career development office peer coaches, so you've got this group of 6 to 8 MBA1s that you're working with on a weekly basis to walk through the equivalent of a curriculum that's intended to get them to where they're interested in going. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens in that experience or what's happened recently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a group of 5 students right now in my fact group. So it's a great ratio of 1 coach to 5 students. And we meet for an hour every week and basically view this opportunity as a chance to practice the skills that are being taught during the consulting club on Sundays. So consulting club, a lot of people there, like a format of kind of sharing material for the 100 or so members that are in the consulting club. And then fact group is really a chance where you get to practice this on your own. Because although we have a structure that we think works pretty well and a path to follow, not everyone needs the exact same thing. So it's really nice to be able to break out and get that differentiated practice and develop a relationship with your peer coach so that you can get to know someone and really meet the needs of that student on their journey as they recruit for consulting. So this is just an agenda of, I believe it's from like the second week of fact group where it said, that week we're working on resumes and articulating your value, which we call your Odyssey, just sharing kind of your story and why you want to go into consulting. So going through the agenda for this week was a chance to practice the Odyssey and get feedback from the coach and other students, as well as get some one-on-one resume review time.
Great. And one of the awesome things about being here at Michigan Ross is that you have incredible opportunity to engage and connect with recruiters. And Aaron, you lead the corporate relations or outreach from the consulting club to the recruiters. What are some ways that students connect and get engaged with the recruiters who are here on campus?
Yeah, very many. So I'll start with saying Michigan Ross is one of the core schools for basically all of these consulting firms that you'd be looking at recruiting for, both sort of major firms that will come to mind quickly, but also all the way down to boutique firms that have a little bit more of a targeted approach. We even, as Randy sort of alluded to earlier, have a lot of recruiters that basically move on campus for the whole of the fall, and they're here for all kinds of outreach. At any point during the week, there are day in the life panels where consultants come and talk about what they do every day. Obviously, coffee chats is a huge resource, lunch and learns, and one of the big things that I found really useful last year was actually getting to participate in case workshops with individual firms, learning about their different kind of styles and getting advice from actual consultants who will be in the interview room with you. So there's no question that you'll get a touch point if you want access to a firm. You'll absolutely get it throughout the fall. And even once you're at firms themselves, I found that the Ross Alumni Network is incredibly strong within the first few days of starting at my internship, and even in the weeks leading up to it. I had at least 5 to 10 alumni reach out to me personally and welcome me to the firm and offer me their support throughout the summer. So it truly is a really great network here through the Ross community.
Excellent. Thanks, Aaron. And I want to hit on a couple key student experiences that really offer a lot of additional value for you to be able to practice certain skills. So, Ben, you do the Community Consulting Club this past year, right?
Yep.
What is the Community Consulting Club? What was the project that you specifically were working on?
Yeah, so Community Consulting Club is an opportunity for students to practice what it's like to actually be a consultant while also giving back and doing something good for the community. So each year, about 8 to 10 nonprofit organizations from the greater Ann Arbor area propose a project to Ross that students form teams on and actually run and do the project and end up presenting to the sponsor of the project. So my project was working for a YMCA high school student-run government program that had been making losses for the last few years and wanted to grow the number of students who are participating in the program in order to carry some of their overhead costs and actually make a profit and make the organization sustainable for many students to go into the future. So we had a group of 5 students who were on that team. We met regularly for about 10 weeks and engaged frequently with the head of the program at the YMCA, and ultimately they were able to accept a lot of our recommendations that we hope will help them out moving forward.
Great. There's so many opportunities to create impact around here. For those of you that are interested in social impact, I encourage you to take a look at an article that's called 100+ Ways to Make a Social Impact at Ross. Ben, I know you are on the Social Venture Fund, which is one of our student-led investment funds, impact investing focused. It was actually started by my classmates, and our first class gift led to the seed foundation of the Social Venture Fund, so it's something that's near and dear to my heart, certainly. Are any of you involved with the Data and Analytics Consulting Club? So I was actually just talking to Charlie Manzoni just before this. Charlie is one of the leaders of the Data Analytics Consulting Club. They are working on big data consulting projects essentially. But in addition to working with clients and with faculty who are their advisors for these projects on big data consulting projects, there's also weekly education sessions that they're leading this fall focused on storytelling with data or Tableau or SQL, Python, things like that. So Aaron mentioned the Michigan Code Academy is going to be an opportunity for you to practice those skills. The Data Analytics Consulting Club is going to be a different and another opportunity for you to practice those skills as well. Rajat, you're on the Wolverine Venture Fund, which is a more traditional venture capital fund, one that's been around for over 20 years. What do you do on that fund?
So essentially, in Wolverine Venture Fund, we look at startups where we can invest in a Series A round, which is more like a scaled up company. They have a good product, they have a good revenue stream. The whole process works like this, that we will go ourselves, scout out companies, start doing due diligences. And what has really been helpful is my experience with Wolverine Venture Fund has really prepared me for my summer internship into consulting and even in talking points. For instance, over the last year, I've worked in cybersecurity industry, in due diligence of a startup, in virtual reality industry, and these was really good talking points. Being passionate about tech during my recruitment and networking sessions gave me good industry knowledge. That really helped me. And secondly, in terms of hard skills of market research, competitive response, exit opportunities, you actually do those things for real companies, and people will ask you about to narrow your thought process. Professor Gordon will guide you. That was really, really good practice for me before going into my summer internship and, honing my skills. So overall, Wolverine Venture Fund was one of like the biggest contributors to preparing me for consulting internship apart from MAP.
Great. And a lot of clubs are going to have consulting projects as part of the club. So the Emerging Markets Club is going to do emerging market consulting projects, and the Detroit Revitalization and Business Club is going to be working on urban revitalization projects. Nick, I know that you did a project with the Energy Club that does, again, consulting projects with various energy-focused companies. What was your project? What did you do?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity last year to get involved with one of these projects, and we had a team of 5 or 6 individuals, 3 of whom were MBAs, and the others were from the School of Public Policy, the School of the Environment, some other graduate programs here at Michigan, and they're all very, very smart and talented individuals. We were looking specifically at how a renewable power generation facility would choose to bid or put their units of power up for bidding when they have zero or virtually zero marginal cost. And how does that affect markets, and how does that affect the policy around energy markets, which update instantaneously for different locations? So we had a chance to compare the Texas and California regulatory models, and through the connections of our sponsor, the connections of some of the professors that we have here, and the fact that we had the benefit of saying we were grad students at the University of Michigan, the access that we had to individuals in a variety of these markets, a variety of companies and regulatory agencies, and even other graduate schools who are experts in their field. We just had unbelievable access to these folks, and we're able to pull our findings together and create a presentation that was actually published on the website of a lobbying firm who specialize in this type of policy.
Excellent. The last one I'll mention quickly is Ross Open Road. So if MAP ends at the end of April and your internship largely doesn't start until late May, early June, some of our students choose to go on a 3 to 4 week road trip to work with different social entrepreneurs around the country. So think of these as 1 week projects with clients that might not otherwise have access to consulting resources or opportunities. So the students get a chance to pick who they work with and go to learn about different parts of the country, what business looks like, and how they can engage these smaller companies. Randy, I know one of the questions that's come up is advice that we have for career switchers, building on what we've talked about, what do you think?
Yeah, so all of these activities that are on the slide help build confidence, as Rajat talked about, and give you things to talk about when you're in your interviews. But that said, the consulting firms aren't expecting you to have consulting experience when you show up. They want to understand that you understand what skills are necessary to be a good consultant and to know how you demonstrated those skills in your previous roles. But people have tremendous success. You don't really have to worry about not having any. It's good for your own confidence, but from a consulting firm standpoint, you don't need to be walking in with any previous consulting experience. And like Ashley, I know that lots of people with really alternative backgrounds, like Teach for America, like you had, are tremendously successful switching. And that just people come from all walks of life. That's what consulting firms are looking for, is a wide variety of perspectives and background. And so really I would basically say the main advice for career switchers is to relax about not having any consulting experience. own the experience you do have, understand how it applies to what consulting firms are looking for, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, the firms are going to teach you how to be a consultant, right, and teach you what they need you to know. But do any of you have any thoughts on just things that allowed you to be a successful career switcher, just preparation, something you might have wished you would have known when you were in their shoes, or that you were worried about, that you feel like you got a chance to practice or build upon while you were here, that allowed you to be a successful career switcher?
Yeah, one of the things that Randy has drilled into my head for the last 12 months or so is that consulting firms and the interview process is designed to identify people who are good problem solvers, which is something that all of us have from our previous careers, whether that was consulting or education or selling coffee like Aaron did. So I would say that, again, like Randy said, relax about whether or not your experience qualifies you for that, and start to pick out things in your previous experience that can demonstrate that you are a good problem solver. And how did you go about identifying what needed to be solved? How did we solve it? How did we present it? Because that's the sort of thing that consulting firms do and bill clients for, and ultimately what they hire for.
Great. And I'm going to go to this next slide here. Do feel free to submit questions as we're talking, but I want to engage our two international students now in terms of your pursuit of the consulting experience. Any particular resources that you engaged? Any particular advice that you would have for international students? What's the market look like from your perspective of, are firms hiring international students? And Randy, feel free to chime in there as well. But Raja, do you want to start there?
Yeah. So one thing that I'll start with is, even as an international student, like, we have some different set of questions that we want to know about. Someone coming from India who has no ties in US, I didn't know which office to select, for instance. All the consulting companies are very open to get you connected to relevant people who have been in similar paths, so that you can understand what's the difference in culture like, especially coming from India, what's the difference in working in India, what's working in US, how to select an office, and things like that. Secondly, all the consulting companies do understand that international students have these visa issues in their mind of what's happening with the whole environment and everything, and they are very open to answer those kind of questions, to support you in any way. Before going into my summer internship, I actually had a conversation with McKinsey of what would happen, if there's an issue with visa, and they gave me a complete roadmap of what are the possible things that we could do to help you and things like that. So those are all comfortable options that you can explore with consulting firms. My only advice is be open about it. Don't be shy in asking these questions, because consulting companies are open and are expecting such kind of questions. Unless and until you do ask these questions to these companies, or even to the alumni at Ross, it will be difficult to navigate that path.
I would just add, from my perspective, there was a lot of resources available from the school's perspective. It's a very big value of the CDO, but also the consulting club to bring as much transparency to these decisions as possible. And every year we continue to build on what we know from all the different firms, and make sure that those relationships and the information is really strong and basically true before going into this whole recruiting process. So there's a whole different section on the CDO website that's specifically designed to help international students navigate the decisions that they have to navigate while going through the process, that obviously are not the sort of traditional pathway of a domestic student. So the resources available are incredible.
Okay. Great, thank you guys. And I will say that while consulting is tough for any of our students, right, to navigate into, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, there's a lot of process, preparation, practice, you really have to decide whether it's a good fit for you too, pretty early on, right? And so Randy, I know, works closely with the students on that. But our international students do quite well with consulting, and they're very successful. The firms are indeed hiring them, which is nice, because it is the biggest chunk of our class that goes into consulting. So for those of you that are international students, nearly 60% of our class goes into tech or consulting. So those happen to be good areas for international students to pursue. Randy, as we think about how we develop relationships with companies across the spectrum, whether it is the bigger companies that are regularly coming to campus, and frankly, they're not coming to every campus, we happen to be one of a select group, or boutique companies that are maybe a little bit more specialized. Can you talk a little bit about how we build those relationships with the companies?
Yeah, so we do have now we have about 15 firms that are coming to campus, and not all of them are big name firms. Some of them are more regional and not as well known. And so I have a counterpart, an industry relations manager, whose job it is to go seek out relationships and try to bring more firms to recruit on campus. But that said, there are thousands of consulting firms out there that don't recruit on our campus, or frankly any campus. There are a few larger name firms that don't recruit here at Ross, that recruit at other campuses, but you're really limiting yourself if you're only focused on the large firms that recruit on campus. And the thing about going and looking off campus is very quickly boutique firms specialize in something, right? Because they just don't have the depth and breadth of larger firms. And so it's either an industry or a particular functional area. It might be a geography. It might be a combination of all of those. And although, we work hard to try to maintain relationships with all our alumni, it's really important that a student is able to identify what it is they want to actually work on, what kind of projects really excite them, what kind of problems they want to solve out in the world. And once you do, we've got great resources. Our library has amazing databases. We can help you much more effectively than just Googling, sustainability consulting firms in Kansas City, right? Which may or may not be a good search, and actually sometimes provide, even that seeming so narrow ends up having way too many choices, right? So we've got much better databases to help you identify specific companies, and then we can talk about, looking for alumni that may be in that company or may be connected to that company, and help you look and identify off campus. And just as a quick example, I had a student a few years ago who, because her fiance's family business was in Portland, Maine, she had to be in Portland, Maine. She really wanted to do healthcare consulting. All right, healthcare consulting in Portland, Maine. Tough get, right? Or it seems like it would be. There's an amazing firm called Beacon Consulting in Portland, Maine. She ended up with a higher level director position than she would have landed in any of the, big firms that recruit on campus. So once you're clear about what it is you're looking for, there's opportunities all over the place.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that's cool for me as an alum is to see these firms on campus all the time. So I know that there's probably many of you that are on the phone that have never been to Ann Arbor before. You're thinking, hey, is Ann Arbor going to be a good platform for me to be able to get to where I want to go? What do you guys think? I mean, we're 25 minutes from a major international airport, which is another reason that, of course, people are on campus all the time. We talked a little bit about the engagement that you all have. I mean, you're going to have access to the recruiters, right? Any other stories of sort of opportunities that you had to connect with these recruiters to learn more about what firms you were interested in? Experiences that stand out?
I would just say the firms that come to campus, really want to meet you. And so it's not as if, people are, competing for, a few limited spots. All the firms that come here, go out of their way to host lots of coffee chats and really get to know you in a variety of different ways that really going through the process that Ross has created helped me get lots of opportunities to meet with recruiters. It wasn't as if I had to create this process on my own. It was very much following steps that had been set up, which I found really helpful because there's plenty of other stuff to worry about.
I would just add, don't worry about the opportunities. There will come a day in the process we'll be tired of meeting consulting companies. There are so many opportunities. You can find at least 4 to 5 different types of opportunities with each consulting firm, and they're on campus so much. So we'll have a lot of opportunities to meet these consulting firms. So don't worry about that.
Great. Yeah, so in thinking about process, because there's some questions around that, right? And these are folks that are potentially in the admissions process now, perhaps thinking about starting an MBA 1 year, 12 months from now. Are there things that you wish you would have known or wish you would have spent time doing in advance, learning about? Or would you say that those handful of months before school gave you ample time to be able to practice, prepare, and get ready for the search?
So the recommendation we typically give to folks is to have fun before you go to business school. Travel, spend time with your family and friends. there are books that you can read. There are definitely, you can work on your mental math. But a lot of what takes place during the fall semester, especially here at Ross, we're preparing you for that consulting case interview, the consulting behavioral interview, and the entire recruiting process. And so in terms of what to do right before you go to school, I highly recommend, and I'm sure I'm seeing the nods in this room, is to make the most of that summer before you commit to 2 years of the best 2 years of your life, actually. So there's not much, and happy to talk more specifically about the recruiting process once you're on campus. But yeah, I would say read a couple of books, maybe work on some mental math, and prioritize travel and family before you come to school.
And the recruiting prep course.
And do the recruiting prep course.
Yes.
Thank you, Randy. Make sure you do that. You have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty important. So carve out some time for that. Yeah.
I would just add one more thing. I think what's unique oftentimes about going to business school is you might know that you're going to leave your job for several weeks or several months before you actually do. So in my particular situation, the majority of what I was doing was analyzing portfolios, analyzing investments, but once I knew that I was going to be leaving and going to be coming here to Ross to hopefully pivot into consulting, I was able to raise my hand for some different stuff that might have been outside of my normal lane at work, but I knew I just wanted to get some more diverse experience. My bosses knew that. They were able to give me a little bit more leeway. And so I was able to pick up 2 or 3 different stories that I've now told in internship interviews and have used kind of that experience in the MAP, in the informal consulting projects, as well as over the summer. So taking advantage of perhaps a little bit more freedom. I don't know what it's like at your particular job, but taking advantage of that freedom before you actually leave the office for the last time.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. And I think there's going to be different things that different people are going to want to engage in sort of before coming to school, but a lot of it's going to be around just self-reflection, understanding the skills that you've built in your own experience, understanding the skills that you're looking to gain. Even from an admissions perspective, that's what we're looking for, is that you have an idea of where you want to start this journey. It does come at you quickly. As Randy mentioned, we're going to be working with you before you even set foot on campus to help get you a better foundation for what it is that you may want to recruit for. The reality is this with post-MBA jobs. They are more similar than they are different to one another, right? So whether you're looking to go into brand management or consulting or banking, they really want highly analytical, smart, thoughtful, great leaders who are going to add value to their companies without question, right? So there's more similar than there is different, and it does happen quickly. And while the MBA is an opportunity for you to explore, certainly after the MAP experience and the summer internship, we do have MBA 2s that come back and have had those experiences and say, okay, this is where I want to focus now. But the more focused you can be coming in, the more prepared you are to take advantage of the resources that are presented to you, the more likely you are to see success in that process. We have about a minute or 2 left here. And I guess the question that I'll ask you guys is, what's one resource that you wish you would have known about that you think you've really has been a truly valuable part of your experience in recruiting for consulting? And it could be something that we've talked about, but just what's something that you would really reinforce, or a go-to reason that you think you were successful with consulting, classes or otherwise?
I mean, honestly, I'll go back to MAP. I knew a little bit about MAP, but I learned a lot more once I sat on campus, obviously hearing from other students' perspectives, actually getting to put your things into practice and as Diana said earlier, like fail fast and fail quickly in a situation which is a little bit sort of lower stakes than actually going into an internship where there's pressure for the full-time offer and all of that. I actually used all of the skills that I learned on my project. It was sort of market sizing for the US market and a go-to-market strategy. And I used market analysis, market sizing, competitor analysis, and sort of working on product iterations through that in my project on my internship. So I can't reiterate enough that MAP is something that really sets the school apart, and you learn a lot from that, particularly from consulting, because it is ultimately a second consulting internship.
For me, I think it was the fact groups. I think one of the biggest resources is one from a process structure standpoint of what I have to do to get an consulting internship, but also just to have a sounding board if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm worried about something during the complete process of my internship. Having an MBA too, who has been there and gone through that journey, was really helpful for me to understand, okay, this is possible. And just having someone who in your corner was super helpful for me during the complete process.
Great. Thank you, guys. And I see that we're at the end of the hour. Just 2 quick tips, and I'll also send a follow-up email. One, we have over 200 student ambassadors listed on our website. You can filter by where they're from, the clubs that they're involved with, their professional interests and experiences. I highly encourage you to read the bios of the student ambassadors to get to know who's here at Michigan Ross, and feel free to reach out to them directly if you've got any questions about what their experience is like. And second, our alumni network is absolutely incredible. You are truly joining a network for life, whether consulting or otherwise. Michigan Ross is a great place to be. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. Thank you from around the globe for being with us. And students, good luck with class this afternoon. Hope you're doing well. And go Blue. We'll be in touch. Thanks, everyone.
Go Blue.
Bye-bye.